Hey, Dwight, how's it going? I was changing over to my headset because I think there's going to be too much noise if I don't use it from the air from my paint booth. I just decided to get on and do a live stream for fun because I wasn't doing. I have to. Hey, Jack, how's it going? Martin, how you doing? I have to weather some tank cars now, and I don't like it because I'm getting water in my airbrush. Too humid here in Texas. I shouldn't be getting any water in my airbrush. I'm going to take my water filter off. There we go. CP368, how's it going? I've got a lot of water in my water trap here. Maybe if I clean that out. And my allergies are killing me today. All right, maybe that'll be better. Well, extra work's good than better than no work, I reckon. Now, if I can get it back on, it'll be a miracle. There we go. Norman, how's it going? Yeah, I noticed the other evening I was getting some water when I was painting. I think that'll do it. Actually, I'm just trying to blow some dust off of my tank cars before I paint them. They get dusty sitting on the layout. Hey, Gator, what's up? Yeah, more finger painting. I am going to do some tank cars today. So, Gator, you should be familiar with these since you do a lot of tank car switching. Okay, see ya. Take it easy. So I've got a few tank cars here. Most of them are black, but I have a couple KCS tank cars that are red. And these are going to have to be done a little bit differently because they're red. Because when they fade, they kind of turn pink. Yeah, that's right. When they the black ones kind of, not only do they get dirt on them, but a lot of them tend to kind of turn a brownish color on the top. And because the black fades, and it not only fades, but you also see some of the primer that's underneath a lot of times. So, but even just the black fading tends to turn a brownish color. So I think what I'm going to start with for the fading. Hey, Joe Rader, how's it going? Yeah, this was kind of a impromptu thing, Joe. I just kind of started this all of a sudden because I had to do this. I have to weather these tank cars. I figured, well, since we've done box cars, tank cars are just going to be just a little bit different because of the way they weather. Now, I think this boxcar red paint will be a good fading effect on the top. Because boxcar red is actually more brown than it is red. So I'm going to take some boxcar red and fade these on the top first. And for a fading effect, I want the paint a little bit thinner than I would normally airbrush with if I was just laying down a solid color on something. But I don't want it so thin that it runs either, so. So it's just kind of a, maybe half and half thinner, half paint, maybe just a little bit more thinner than that. So I've put in I just went a little over half thin. Hey, Brian. Oh, good, Joe. Yeah, like I said, you'll notice that a lot of tank cars tend to fade on the top. So I'm just going to put a thin coat of Boxcar Red, which is really more, like I said, more of a brownish color. And I not only have these 6 that are sitting here. There's actually 6 sitting here, if you can see that. But I have 7, 8 more sitting over here as well. It's better just to get them all done at one time. So you can see, there's my color. All right, here goes nothing. Let's see what happens. So I'm going to give it, I've got it on 15 PSI when the trigger's depressed, and I'm going to depress it all the way. But I'm only going to pull my trigger back about a quarter of a way when I airbrush. So, because I don't want a heavy coat. It's just, you give it just a little hint of fading. That's all, and not. And you can go a little heavier on some and a little lighter on others. Hey, Anfield, how's it going? Good to see you. And I would go heavier on something that's older. So you might have tank cars on your layout that are older than other ones. For example, I have this Union Pacific tank car that's just a single dome, about a 38-foot tank car, and I'm gonna go a lot heavier on the weathering on that one. So I'm going to see how much of this dust I can blow off too. All right. So I don't know how much you can see on camera, because it usually takes a lot heavier coat on to see it on camera than it does in person, but in the last couple of nights, I've been sitting here putting ACI labels and COTS labels on my rolling stock, because a lot of them didn't have it, or they had the wrong type or something like that. So that's what I've been doing the last couple of nights, because I wanted to get the decals on before I started to weather it, because when you have things like that, you want the decals to be weathered as well. And like I said, go even lighter and heavier in some spots, because sometimes paint is not even. So a spot will wear out, faster than other spots. So, and with putting such a thin coat on, it's going to dry fairly quickly. So, All right. Well, that's good. You're going to have to build a bigger yard, Dave. You might become a railroad mogul. They might move you up to vice president or something like that. And remember, this fading isn't the only weathering we're doing, so you don't have to make it look like the paint's completely worn off. At least blowing it, I'll get some of the bigger chunks of dust off. But you can paint over the dust. Who cares? And I'm kind of limiting myself. I don't know if you can see it well on camera, but the seams of the boxcar are here and here. So I'm kind of, that's where I'm doing the heaviest. And then as I'm spraying, it just kind of fades down the side. So that's right, Shay. Dust is free weathering. And remember, like I said, this is just the first part of the weathering. Now I have a car here that's kind of weathered already. I bought it used and somebody had already weathered it, but I want to fade it a little bit more on the top. And maybe some of your cars are newer and on your layout, you might not want to weather them at all. So just remember that. Yeah, I don't think I'll get spray on the camera. Hopefully the suction is keeping it off the camera. So, but if I do, it's my own fault and it's my own camera, so no big deal. Now this one is supposed to represent something really old on my layout, so I'm going to fade it a little bit more. So I'm trying to hold the airbrush at kind of an angle that the sunlight would hit the car. So if you can see, and that fades it more that way. move that up a little bit. Hey, how's it going, Tom? I got a lot of dust on this one. All right. Once again, another old one. This is a Redding, so Redding wouldn't have even been around in '76. So this is going to be a real old paint job. So I'm going to fade it good first. Make sure I fade the frame a little bit. Said airbrushing such a thin coat, it's not going to take it a long time to dry. So there we go. All right, so that's it for those. So what I'm going to do with these, these are my two KCS tank cars. They were for diesel and oil service for the railroad. So I am going to first fade them by spraying them with some white. Let me empty my airbrush. Amazing how much paint is left in there. Let me find my Boxcar red bottle in all this mess. So I can pour my leftover paint back in it. And now my Boxcar red is, looks like it's about thin enough for just a normal coat of paint. So that's good. All right. So I'm not going to completely empty out my airbrush because it leaves a little bit of that reddish brown in there, which will be good mixed in with the white for these red tank cars. It'll make a little pink, dirty pink color for the white paint I'm going to use. And once again, since it's just a fade, I'm going to fade all of it, but I'm going to go start heavier on the top, and then as I go down, make it lighter. Hungry? So once again, I'm going to make this a little thinner than I would normally do with a base coat. Just because I want a thin coat of weathering. I'm probably going to end up with more paint left over than I actually poured into the... I think another dropper of thinner will help. So I want to make it about, for enamel paint, which I'm using enamel paint right now, trying to make it about like skim milk. So we're real watery, but not so watery that it loses all consistency. So I've put in so far about 3 parts thinner to 2 parts paint. And I think that'll work well. If you're using acrylic-based paint, you probably want to go even a little bit thinner. Acrylic paint's always going to be a little bit thinner than enamel paints. All right, so I've got a nice, barely pink color coming out. I'm going to spray the dust off first. All right, like I say, I'm going to go a little bit heavier on the top. Because that's where the sun's going to get it the most. And then a little bit lighter as I go down. I'm still spraying though from the top down, so... Okay, so right on the top is the heaviest. And then we'll spray down in the direction of the sun for the fading. Yeah, I don't know how well you can see that on camera. It's kind of, the light's kind of reflecting on it. See if I can turn the light off, if that makes a difference. I don't know. I don't know if you can see much difference, but anyway, they are faded. That's you're absolutely right, Tom. Opposite colors on the color wheel will dull other colors. Now, if you go all the way and mix them half and half, like if you mix green with red, you'll end up making a brown color. You know, but you're right. The opposite color will really dull things down. Absolutely. Okay, so I've got those. Got those painted white, which is what I wanted to do. Kind of get a fade effect going. And two, once I put a layer of dull coat on there, they'll really look faded as well. And the dull coat, because right now they're kind of shiny since they were new. And I've got too much white now. Now I've got more white than the bottle will hold. But that's a good thing. Added that thin paint to what was in there, and I've just about got the right consistency to airbrush white the next time. Boiled wieners. Oh, that's what you were saying. They made you hungry because they look like weenies. Yeah. Absolutely. All right, let's see now. Oops, I made a mistake. I moved my airbrush and it flicked a drop of white on there. No problem. I'll put some dirt over it and you'll never notice it. Hey, John, how's it going? Oh, Tom, I really liked your video on the putting down that ballast, because that's problem has plagued me, is making little ruts when you drop the water in there, or the glue water mixture. So that really helped. All right. I guess the one thing that I learned is I just have to be more patient when I'm doing it. So I want to get, when I've got a large area to ballast, I just want to get it done. And look at there, there's a tank car. I completely forgot. Well, that's okay. I just won't weather it. That'll just be a tank car that's not weathered. How about that? I'll just put some dirt on it and forget the rest of it. And then you do want some variety too. You know, you don't want everything looking exactly the same. And that's why it's good to grab a bunch of cars, weather them, come back a week or two later, grab another bunch of cars, weather them, because you won't do them exactly the same every time. So they'll look. You don't want to weather your entire rolling stock, fleet of rolling stock all at one time. That's right, Norman. It's just newer. I'm just back flushing my airbrush. And I really don't completely clean my airbrush when I'm weathering, because I want that variation in colors from one group to the next. You know, even if it's just a tiny, tiny variation, it makes a difference. I'm going to start, I think, with some raw umber. And you can get raw umber in enamels or acrylics. It doesn't matter. Thanks, Tom. Yep. Yeah, I guess you know that even goes for areas on your layout. You know, do a little bit of the area and then come back later on and do some more of it. And God, if you go out, I just sometimes I walk outside and I look, and just the amount of different colors is just unbelievable. You can look in a tree and see 20 or 30 different colors just in one tree. Well, that's one thing you have to remember too about the 70s, Brian, is there was a time when yeah, especially in the 70s, railroads were seeming to try to conserve a lot of money, and they just did not want to wash anything. I remember KCS, I'd see a train when I was growing up, and half the cars you couldn't even read the logos on them because they were so filthy and rusty. And all right, so now I've got a raw. I like raw umber for dirty stuff, and I'm just going to give it a little coat of that. As well. And now with this raw umber for these, I'm doing some treads, some wheel splash up the ends. It's hard to get it where the brake is. There. Oh, a little more than I wanted. Oh well. It'll be different. You can see I put a little there. I don't know where you can tell that. Where do I want to lay these? Okay, so let me give it a good coat of dirt on this Redding one because it's going to be old. I'm actually going to do a wash on this as well. Probably a rust wash, maybe a gray wash. You know, on some of the real old stuff. Yellow, make it look like mustard. No, I can't do that, Dwight, because then Brian would get really hungry and he'd blame me. This raw umber too will kind of clash with the fading because the fading's kind of reddish brown and the raw umber's kind of a greenish brown. So it'll dull it down some. Don't forget the ends. When you're weathering, don't forget the ends. It's easy to do. And some of these, I'm actually going to be changing the couplers on too, so I'm not really worried about the couplers. They're a lot of them those plastic pieces of junk. Huh? I haven't looked at it yet. I'll have to look at that. Graffiti. See, that's something in the 70s you saw graffiti, but it just wasn't as elaborate. It was just, it was usually somebody's name or something like that, and that was it with a spray paint, a can of spray paint. And then and now the graffiti is so elaborate on cars. Yeah, this is the one I forgot to paint that boxcar red on top of, so I'm going to give it a good coat of dirt. And once I finish weathering everything, I'll just give it a good coat of dull coat to seal it all in. Yep, this one's just going to be dirty. Yeah, probably. Yeah, Shay, for the most part, I've got everything up and running on my layout. I just haven't done any. I probably need to do some switching. I mean, I've done some on my own. I was really waiting until I got more scenery done, but I don't have to wait. In fact, I might make a video pretty soon about doing some switching. I've got an industrial section with a grain elevator and a couple other industries. I might make a video doing that because I haven't made a switching video over on that side yet. Oh, nice dirty spot on that one. An extra dirty spot. Yeah, this is kind of just giving it an overall coat of grime, like a lot of railroad cars just have a big layer of grime built up on them. There we go. So much for the layer of grime. I had a boxcar sitting up here. I just wanted to... I didn't want to make very dirty. Because it's fairly new. So I was going to just put a light... Oops! Now look what happened. Camera fell. Just wanted to put a coat of paint on it. Not light coat of grime on it. There we go. All right, that's all I wanted to do to that while I had it out. Okay. So... let me empty my airbrush out. So you can see... Yeah, Norman, they're, like Joe said, they're enamel paints. They're not acrylics. And spraying them in such light coats, they dry to the touch fairly quickly. So not having to worry about letting it really dry between coats. They're not completely dry, but they're dry to the touch. Oops, I jumped the raw umber into the burnt umber. Oh well. So be it. Just a different shade now. I'll have just another shade of weathering is all there is. All right, so I'm going to put just a little coat of dust along the bottom. And once again, I'm not really cleaning everything out. I'm just letting the dust and the dirt colors and all the other stuff just kind of blend in together. There we go. And then next time they'll blend in a little bit differently. Next time I do some weathering. So this is some dust along the bottom. This is just a tan, just a regular Tester's flat tan. Spraying along the bottom. That's all I'm doing. And heavier at the wheels. See you, Brian. So you can see how fast you can get a bunch done. I've got about 15 cars here, maybe a little less. And you can go through in an afternoon and weather up a bunch of cars. And you can't hardly make mistakes with weathering because things weather so differently out on the railroads. So it would be hard to say, hey, that doesn't look right, because almost anything goes when you see weathering out in the real world. And you can get the underneath if you want as well. Don't forget that, but you don't have to. Nobody's going to see it unless you have a train wreck on your layout. Then they might see it. Where cars fall over and stuff. So. Hey Bob, how's it going? Yeah, since this dries so fast, I'm not leaving any fingerprints behind. I'll say that, and I will. But you are right about that. You can leave fingerprints on your work, which doesn't look real good. Three more to go for this round of weathering. There we go. All right. So the next thing I want to do after I dump this tan out. That's right. You just put a black patch over the print. Nobody will know nobody will be any wiser, will they? Or if it's a newer car, just put a bunch of graffiti over it. Nobody will see it. Now, what I'm going to do next, you don't see as much of as you used to, but you used to see this a lot more. And that is spills. Spills used to be a big, big thing. So I'm not going to do it to all of the cars, but I'm going to do it to some of them. Well, let me just run some thinner through my airbrush real quick, just so stuff doesn't dry inside of it. Yeah, Bob. I mean, when you have a lot of cars, if you try to do one or two at a time, you're going to be the rest of your life trying to weather cars. But like I said, do do a group at a time. Don't do them all at the same time because you don't want all your weathering to look exactly the same on everything. So these are about, so what I have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. I've got less than half of my tank cars here. So the other half I'll weather at a different time, and then they'll look even different than these did. So and I'm gonna do these spills and all while I let those two older cars, that Redding I have and the Union Pacific, that are just single dome tank cars. I'm going to let them dry a little bit longer because I'm going to come over them with some washes and really make them messed up. See you, Digger. Oh, after midnight. Yeah. And it's getting to be evening here, so the mosquitoes are coming out, and they're going to be chewing me up. All right, that's clean enough for just right now. All right, so I am going to grab maybe half of these, 6 or 7, and do some nice spills. Three, 4, 6. And I know I'm going to do it on these old ones. Now, hang on. I know what I forgot to get. And if I can't find any, I'll have to improvise. Looks like I might have to improvise. I was going to get some gloss black and do it with that. But it looks like all I have are flat blacks. Unless... Oh, I do have a gloss black. Yeehaw. See you, Gator. Like I said, spills aren't as prevalent as they used to be. Hang on one second, guys. I've got to get a pair of pliers and open this jar up. All right. Don't you hate it when you move all your tools to one place? To do one job and then you don't bring them back? Yep. I didn't do the right thing when I closed this jar up. Yeah, and you would see a lot more tank car spills um, years ago than you do now. You just don't see them now like you did. There we go. Yep, that was a mess. I just had never wiped off the top of this jar when I put my gloss paint back. And it just made an absolute nightmare trying to open it. But I got it open. Yeah, you're probably right, Bob. But yeah, like I said, I remember back in the 70s, almost every tank car had a spill down the side of it. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do about half of my tank cars that way, and the other half not. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a heavy wash. Out of my gloss black paint. To do it. So by a heavy wash, I'm going to mean, well, let me make sure this is all wiped off nice and clean now. I'm going to have this paint. I'm going to have about 1 part paint and 4 parts thinner. And since oil is not pure black, I am going to put a little rubber in the oil, in the paint. I've got a jar of flat rubber here, so that'll just flatten it up just enough. I'm going to put 2 droppers full of flat rubber in with the black. So I've got a dropper full of flat black, a dropper full of gloss black, 2 droppers of flat rubber, and then 12 droppers of thinner. And that's just, so this is the consistency I'm going for. If you can see it. So now I'm just going to get a brush that's about as wide as the stands up on top of the walkways. So I got this brush here. It's a 3/4 inch. And I'm going to let that mixture run down the side. Hey, Roy, how's it going? So here's what I'm going to do. Let's see if you can. Okay, this one. So I'm going to get the mixture on my brush. And I'm going to let it run down the side. If it'll run. Yeah. And sometimes the ladders will inhibit it. That's fine. Let it just run like it naturally wants to run. That's perfect. So we'll give it a minute and see what that dries to. So I'm going to come under here and just let it run down. So I'm going to try to get it heavy on the brush so it runs itself. I'm just going to let it flood as much as it needs to, because this probably happened more than once. And you let it make different patterns, etc. Let it run down until it drips off, and let it do what it wants to do. There we go. That one just kind of ran itself. I'll just let it do what it wants to do. Set it up there out of the way. Now you can see I got oil stains. Should have done this on my layout, huh? I'd have had nice oil stains. Yeah, like I say, you don't see this much anymore, but you used to see it a lot more often. Yeah, I just wanted a brush that's about the size of the walkways. That's the only thing I was going for, Tom. All right. I'm just going to let those dry and do the two really beat up ones. So these two are really going to get weathered. More than the rest of them. There we go. All right. So the other thing I'm going to do is get my rust out if I can find it. And these two are going to get a rust wash and also maybe a white or a light gray wash. Yeah, Shay, I am. If I had, Shay, if I had some of my scenery done, I would do that. But being as I don't, I'm not going to be able to. Okay, so I've got a smaller brush here for my rust wash. And I'm just going to let it more go down the seams than anything else. The rivet seams. And anywhere there's kind of a seam, I'm going to let it soak in. And it looks like a lot right now, and it is, but I'm going to take care of that in just a second. So I'm just kind of wiping it off a little bit. And it'll take some of that rust away. And what you're left is not only rusty seams, but a nice streaked paint job. And you can wipe as much off as you want or as little off as you want. And the longer you leave it sit on there, the less it's going to come off. So just be aware of that. Yep. Then that's kind of the effect I was going for. It's just these two are going to be old and beat up. And these are about ready to be retired from service. Probably in the next month or two. All right. Do, 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 do. Okay. And I thought of one thing I might have to go back and do, but I'll see how it turns out after I do it. I might have to go back and redo the spills because when I put a layer of dull coat over it, the spills are going to dull down as themselves. So we'll see what happens. I can always go back and do that if I need to. I didn't think about that till just now. Kind of dumb of me, but oh well. All right. So everything's ready. Everything's ready for dull coat. And dull coat will kind of bring everything together. And got an open nope. And kind of dull down the effects as well as the paint. So. And this tends to dry fairly quickly as well. See, I mean, just that fast, it's dry to the touch. So enough for me to pick them up and sit them over off to the side. Yeah. Well, that's the lucky thing, Shay, is that it's perpetually the same month and year on my layout, so they'll never get retired. Yeah, that's right. A space heater will dry them real quick. It might even set them on fire. Well, even with the spray paint booth, that lacquer dull coat tends to permeate the room. Yeah, I'm glad I've got the door open in here and everything. Otherwise, I'd be dead inside a few minutes. It doesn't take much too to get to get them dull. You don't want to sit there and blast on them. There we go. Oh, I don't think I got the top of that one. Just in case I didn't get the tops, there we go. So you see, in I don't know how long we've been doing this now. In less than 2 hours, I've weathered 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 14, 17 cars. So as soon as I finish dull coating the rest of them. But it'll still be less than 2 hours, so. Which is a good chunk. I mean, if you do 10 or between 10 and 20 cars at a time, depending on how big your layout is, that'll get you a long way into weathering. And every one of them doesn't have to be completely weathered. You remember, some things are newer, some are older, some weather differently. Yeah. Every once in a while, some companies actually wash their cars or repaint them, or that's rare, but it does happen. And there's the hot dog cars. I can usually, within a couple minutes, just grab them by the frames. And they'll be easy enough. Now I've got 6 left. Do 3 at a time. We'll be good. And yes, I might have to change the springs out on some of these couplers. But if I do, I do. Such is life. Yeah, you're right, Bob. You're absolutely right. You can make so many trees before you go bonk. That's right. If you keep doing the same thing over and over and over and over for days, you're going to drive yourself nuts. And believe me, when you got a layout, there's plenty of things you can do that are different. You can work on scenery one day, cars the next, electronics the next. It's a never-ending thing with a layout anyway. All right, I've got 3 more. 3 more and I'll be through the gas chamber. Now there's other things I could have done. I could have used pastels on some of this. I just didn't happen to this time. Maybe next time I will, and that will make my next group a little bit different from this group. So dry brushing, I could have done some dry brushing stuff, and I didn't do it this time. So but next time, make it mix it up a little bit and do some dry brushing. You just don't want to, every time when you're weathering, to use the same technique in the same places all the time. That just doesn't make for a good outcome. Because that doesn't naturally happen like that in nature. There we go. All everything's weathered and everything is dull coated. And it looks like my dull coat did not affect that gloss wash as much as it did the rest of the paint job, which is good. So like, here's an example. I don't know if you can see it, but you can see my oil spill down the side of that is not the same color as the rest of the tank car. So, and it looks a little glossier. So, hey, that worked out. On some of the other cars, it's not as prominent, but that's okay too. So, all right. When you're finished, can you move your camera so we can see the side? You mean like that? So that's that's one of the tank cars. Probably better to do this. Turn it on its side since the light's on it. Yeah, and this particular one wasn't one I did the spill on. This one was. And I did a spill on this one too, but you can't see it. It's not quite as prominent. So some of them are more prominent than others. But that's okay. That's kind of what I'm going for. There, now I have the Now I can see me. Not that you need to see me, but if I can get this camera sitting up here so it doesn't spill, so it doesn't take a dive off of my paintbrush booth. So there, yeah, make sure the right camera's on. My computer's over there, but my camera's up here, so. So I appreciate it. I mean, I'm just, like I said, I had to do it, so I figured that would be a good good to do it while I was on on a live stream. And if you had any questions, remember when you're weathering, use different techniques throughout. Weather some one way, some another way. Use different combinations. You're going to get different results. I just wanted to get a bunch done today, so I went with a fast way to weather. It's not necessarily the best way, and it sure isn't the only way, but it's it was a way to get a bunch done at one time. Since I'm so far behind on everything, I've got 1,000 things I know I need to do on my layout, and this is one of them. But so I just I decided to get this all done because I knew I could get it done, a group of them done at once. And that's it. That's all I got. Yeah. You'll never remember everything, Shay. And as you go along and you don't remember everything, when you skip things and do things differently, you might find a way that works better for you, So that's a good thing too. There's, like I said, there's just multiple ways to do weathering, and there's not one that's a right way. There's just different ways. And it's if the outcome looks good to you, then it was the right way. Yeah, John, I can still think of 1,000 things I can do on my layout. I want to do some more scenery, but I can't do scenery until I get my buildings built and know where the buildings are going exactly. So that happens a lot of times. You end up you have to do these 10 steps before you can get to this one, and it's just, sometimes you look at it and you want to scream and throw a hand grenade on your layout. And well, I guess we've been at this for an hour and 54 minutes. I appreciate everybody sticking through it. Oh, by the way, did I bring it out here? Yes. Does anybody subscribe to Cowcatcher magazine? So it's a semi-monthly publication. So it comes out every other month. A lot of times you'll see these at train shows, or you'll see these at train museums or that kind of stuff. Yeah. But if you get Cowcatcher, I am going to put a plug in for myself again. I actually have a photograph I did of my layout in Cowcatcher. So there it is on page 36. So that's my Jeep 9 that I painted. And I took a photo of it a couple months ago, and I sent it into Cowcatcher, and they added it to the magazine. So that's thought that was pretty neat. I've never been published before, so and Cowcatcher, one thing, they're small enough now to where they want you to send them pictures, so they're not like the two big ones that have so many people sending them photographs that they can just not include them, throw a bunch away. So anyway, I appreciate everybody watching, and if there's no questions, I'll see everybody next time. No, Cowcatcher is not free. If you buy one issue, it's like $6 to have it mailed, including postage, to mail it to you. And I think it's not much. 6 issues a year. I think it's $25. It seems like for a year or something like that. I can't remember exactly how much the subscription is, but they've got a lot of different. Yeah, okay, I'll do that. They've got a lot of different things in Cowcatcher that some of the two big ones don't have. They talk a lot about model railroads, but they also talk about the prototypes as well. So I think that's probably a good thing. That they do, so they include a little bit about the prototypes as well. There it is. Here's the there's the link to Cowcatcher to subscribe to them. And I can tell you how much it is. I think. It is $16.95 for a year, which is 6 issues, or $27.95 if you subscribe for 2 years, which is 12 issues. So, and that's including shipping and all. So, yeah, it's just a good little magazine. It's got I think it's published down here in Texas, if I'm not mistaken. But he's got stuff from all over in it. I mean, it's not just a local one. But it seems to focus more on this area: Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Kansas, New Mexico, that area. So, but he's got, like I said, he's got articles in here on Amtrak. He's got what the stock prices are doing, on the big railroads, train show information, and of course the advertisers and all. So a good little magazine, I think, for the price. No, just a picture. Just the photo. I even if they had wanted to do anything about I mean, he never asked about it, but if they wanted to do anything about my layout, at this point I would have said no anyway. It's just not far enough along to have an article published about it. I mean, unless they're specifically doing, articles on layouts that have, that are just in progress. Yeah. So anyway, hey, 2 hours. Well, thanks for watching me, guys, and I will. I'll see y'all next time. Have a good Saturday evening and enjoy the rest of your weekend. And I will talk to y'all later. Take it easy.